Brian's always laughing at me. I'm out in this field, I'm pulling some soybean plants up, looking them over top to bottom, and I'm seeing all these ants on the plants, and you may be seeing that too and wondering why are there
in your pants?
No, why are there ants in Brian's pants and on the plants too?
Well, we wanted to talk a little about ants this week, and in soybeans it's kind of interesting because the ants don't really seem to damage the soybean plants at all. What they're there to do is basically milk the soybean aphids. Well, seriously.
Not like you would think milking a cow, not exactly the same process.
But what they're doing, they like to eat some of this stuff that comes out of these soybean aphids.
That's a nice way to put it.
Well, yeah.
On the show we're going to talk about manure too.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. But anyway, the point is when you see lots of soybean aphids, you typically see lots of ants there too. So you don't have to spray because of the ants, but when you see lots of ants, you know there are lots of soybean aphids out in the field.
Well, it's not just soybean plants and soybean aphids. You're going to see ants on a lot of different crops and a lot of different plants in general. For example, on trees. On some trees, sometimes when they get a wound, they've got a worm that's feeding on them or some kind of bug that's chewing on the tree. Oftentimes, the first sign that you'll see is you'll see these ants moving up trees. And you'll wonder, man, what's going on? Why are there ants on the trees? They're going after what's left over from these bugs that are feeding on things.
Or that sap. Yep. So again, ants a lot of times aren't a real big problem in crops, but because they're there, you know that there are other bugs that are much more damaging and you may need to spray. So if you see lots of ants out in your soybean field, it's probably because there are lots of aphids and you have to go spray those soybeans for aphids because they will severely damage yield. Now let's talk a little about ant control around the house because we get questions about that.
Okay, well out in the field, if you are spraying for aphids, you will kill the ants as well. Around the house, what you can use is some of the same products that farmers are using in soybeans to control soybean aphids and also kill the ants too. You can kill ants around the house with something like Tempo. It's a pyrethroid insecticide. It's developed from the poison found in a chrysanthemum flower.
But a lot of people say that Tempo is not real good on ants. What do you think about that?
I disagree. Tempo works just fine. I've used it around my house for years now. And when I spray Tempo, it works great on ants for about 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks if I'm lucky. And then I need to reapply.
But
so it's not the long-lasting kind of control, but it works for a while.
It does if you use the right rate. And if you use a very low rate, then that's where you could have some problems. So as soon as you said, I'm getting 2 or 3 weeks worth of residual, I know you're using a relatively high rate.
Well, I don't want to spray every day out there. And so, yeah, I do give it a little stronger rate. And what I'll do is I'll just go spray right along by the doors. I'll spray all the way around the landscaping around my house. And then I'll go out in the cracks in the sidewalk and this kind of thing. And I can wipe out ants for a long time with Tempo. Now, there's other insecticides that can be used as well. But for me, I just want to use the safest thing I can because I've got pets and I've got 3 little kids, 5 and down. I don't want to have any kind of issues or worry about safety at all. That's why I like the pyrethroid products. Tempo is certainly one of them.
Well, once again, ants are not usually a major problem in crops, but they are an indicator that there are other insects out there that could be more damaging. And once again, around your house, if you need to control some ants, just use the product Tempo at a relatively strong rate.
Well, Tempo does a great job on ants and other insects, but it doesn't control our weed of the week. Can you identify this week's weed?